Direct from Montreal, Canada, this is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. I am, of course, the one and only Mitch Lafon. Joining me on the phone from the band Heavy Pettin, it is Steve Hayman, or known simply as Haymy. Their new album is Foreplay. Of course, the band disappeared from the scene for God knows how long, for 30-some years. But they are back. The new album or the EP sounds great. Hopefully there will be more Heavy Pettin coming down the road. But let us get us over to Steve. Hopefully everybody out there listening is coping with this coronavirus isolation and lockdowns around the world. So I just want to get right to the interviews, right to the meat of these episodes. Anyway, please follow me on Twitter at Mitch Lafon. That is Twitter at Mitch Lafon. And if you do care to support the show, it is paypal.me/Mitch Lafon, paypal.me/Mitch Lafon. And I will keep doing these as long as I can, though who knows? It's a very strange world we're in these days. But here's somebody that's not strange. From Heavy Pettin, it is Haymy, or Steve Hayman, the one and only. Here's Steve. We are speaking with Haymy from the band Heavy Pettin. The new album is Foreplay. It's a wonderful EP that just came out. As we say in Montreal, bonjour. How are you?
Oh, thank you very much. Nice to speak to you, Mitch. How is... Hopefully the weather's a lot nicer than what it is over here in Texas at the moment. It's kind of rainy and cold, which is kind of surprising for Texas.
I have to say, for somebody in March telling me that it's cold in Texas when I'm up in Montreal... There's definitely an irony to all of that, but pleasure to have you. So let's get into getting the band back together in 2017. You run off and you do the Winter Storm Festival, and then the band decides to stay together. So talk to me a little bit about that first before we get to the EP. 2017 rolls around and you say, "Hey, why not?
Yeah,
let's do this."
Yeah, actually, I was sitting on a beach. I was sitting on a beach in Florida, and my daughter was talking away to me, and she kept on saying, "Well, why don't you get the band back together again?" And and we got asked. Ever since we split up in 88, 89, it's like we've been asked every year to get the band back together, whether it was the Japanese or the Germans, whatever. And for whatever reason, we just didn't. None of us wanted to do it. And then as the years went by, there was always one of us that was like, no. So we just never bothered, and we just never spoke to each other for a long time. And then, like I said, I was sitting on the beach, and my daughter asked me, and that was the first time I'd actually really, really thought about it in a while. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll make some phone calls and see, because we hadn't talked to each other since. 2007, 2008 was when the Japanese released Petology, and they wanted us to reform and get back together and do another album and then go tour. And so everybody was up for it through the initial phone calls way back then, but then the usual stuff happened. After a few days, one by one, everybody would just kind of bail off the idea and just book. And so at that time, I think it left me and Gordon, and we didn't want to do it by ourselves. We wanted it to be the whole band. So we just said, never mind, don't worry about it. So the Japanese released Petology by themselves without us going and touring and supporting it and stuff. But so fast forward 2016. So I said, okay, yeah, maybe. So I came home to Texas, and I called Gordon. And that was the first time we'd spoken in a while, and we just kind of, went through the pleasantries and all that stuff, how you doing? And I said, hey, how do you feel putting the band back together and go and play? And just because you've seen all these other bands get back together, and, we were fairly successful, and everybody still talks about us, and people always ask about us to get together. Do you think the time's right? Let's just do it. I said, I'm into it if anybody else is interested. I just want to kind of tread the water and see. And he said, well, let me think about it. He goes, so you need to call the other guys. And so I called Gary, the drummer, and Gary was all about it. He was like, yeah, I'm in. And then spoke to Punky. Punky was in. never ever got the bass player. Never ever spoke to Brian, but we emailed and he said, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. So get back to Gordon, and we just sat and thought about it logistically. Me in America and everybody else. So it kind of sat on hold for about a while we kind of kicked back about what we're going to do. And then Gordon, I was in New Orleans maybe like 6 months later, and Gordon called me and says, okay, I'm in. I spoke to the rest of the guys. Let's just do one show. There's no pressure. You fly to London, we'll rehearse, and then we'll do one show. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, no big deal. At least we've got to hang out and, bury the hatchet as such, and everybody's all friends again. And I was like, sure, that sounds cool. And so that was really it. And we set up, we called our old manager at the time. And so he set up Winter Storm. He spoke to the guys at Winter Storm. They totally freaked out and said, well, that would be awesome to get, one of the main rock bands that's ever come out of Scotland to come and headline one of the things after like 25 years. So they were all about it. And that happened from there. But in between that, Mitch, the drummer failed, everything fell through with Gary, and then little Brian, the bass player. Nobody, and the weird thing about that is nobody ever spoke to that guy. It was all done by email, and eventually we could never get him on email, and we just went, okay, we'll forget him. Obviously, he's not interested, and so we just progressed, and it was just me, Gordon, and Punky, and we brought in another drummer and another bass player, and we did Winter Storm, and it turned out fantastic. So that was basically it.
It's easy to replace drummers. Just ask the Scorpions. Just ask the Scorpions. They've had a bunch. But all right.
I know they've had a million. I know. It's don't say that. Our old drummer would get extremely pissed if he heard that. He's already pissed that we were actually out playing without him. You know what I mean? He didn't think we'd go through with it. But
respectfully, who's to blame for that? Not you. So. He should.
Oh, no, definitely not. It was all Gary. It was his choice. Things just weren't moving fast enough for him, I guess, and he had plans, and he's always wanted to be a singer. So he wanted to front his own band, and so he decided he was going to go ahead and do that, and good luck to him. We just all parted ways. He got pissed off at the end because I really don't believe that he thought we would go ahead and do it. And so that was it, and now we haven't spoke to each other since, kind of. So, which is kind of weird, but
anyway, well, let us move on to the more positive. But the band, of course, is known for your vocals, the vocal prowess, the high vocals. That's that great sort of, I don't want to call it a scream, but you know what I mean. That just that powerful, I guess, mid-'80s style vocal, right? Yeah. When you get back together and you're going to do this, obviously, as you get older and the muscles in the neck and all that change, was the voice a concern for you? Did you still have it? Did you have to do 6 months of vocal training? What was it like?
No, I had to. It was a major concern for me to get back in that whole, because I hadn't sang that way since the mid-'90s, likely. You know what I mean? And so when you don't use those muscles, I mean, I was still singing. The good thing is I was still singing. And so that always kept my voice going and everything like that. But I stopped using that real high range in my voice register, And so it was kind of worrying when it came to do the old songs. And just like you said, when you get older, it's like anything. If you don't use that muscle, then it's basically going to go away. But yeah, it was a major concern, but when we went into rehearsals, it turned out fine. You know what I mean? I'm not screaming as much as I used to, which is absolutely fantastic. But it's there, and the good thing is it's not taking away anything from the songs. The songs are still sound great and powerful, and nothing's changed. I've got older and wiser, so I don't scream constantly anymore. I'm more concerned with doing my thing, make it, as long as it sounds great, if the fans like it, and as long as I can hear myself, then I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, and the fans are happy as well. So talk to me about that when you get into the recording sessions for Foreplay. And I have a bunch of questions about the album. First of
Okay.
all, you're doing an EP, you're not doing a full length. Was that just, hey, let's just get something to the fans and give them a taste, and then we'll come back with 12 songs next year? Or was it
Yeah.
like, okay, so talk to me about, first of all, the concept of the EP and why not a full length and why just 4 songs? And then I want to get into
Well,
the...
okay. Really, the main reason is we kept on thinking, okay, what we're going to do? Okay, we need to finish an album. We just did a tour with Angel in Britain, and that had been our first real tour in a long time. And so we did a co-headline thing in Britain, and we sold out about, I think it was like 10 shows or whatever. And they would headline one night, we'd headline the next night, type thing. And so there was huge interest in that. And so we were really excited about it. And so it was like, okay, so how do we keep this going? Because if we start the album, we knew we were always going to do an album. We knew that was going to happen. But it was like, okay, so what we're going to do, how long is it going to take is we need to write all these songs, because up to that point, we'd just been concentrating on the back catalog, rehearsing the song, picking the best songs, rehearsing them live, because that's all we were doing. That's all that was in front of us, was the fact that, well, we need to go see if there's an audience out there, and let's go play. And after that the Angel thing, it was like, oh, okay, well, so everybody's all about it, just like us. So now let's decide, let's get down, write some songs. And so the EP came about, and we were always going to call, if we'd have stayed together way back in the day, then we were always going to call the next album, was one of the names for the title of the album, Foreplay. And so when we were kind of sitting messing around with it, it was like, well, why don't we just get 4 songs out real quick? And as long as they sound great, as long as they're great songs, let's put it out and just call an EP Foreplay. That gives us some breathing room, and then we can finish off the album. And that was basically how all that came about. That was, we sat down, did the 4 songs. We felt the 4 songs were good enough, and we just went, okay, let's put this out. We're going on the Monsters of Rock cruise, so we wanted it out for that time to promote that, and then so that's why we did it. And knowing that we have a bunch of other songs that we're finishing even as we speak, that are going to be on an album that's going to be out before the end of the year. So.
Oh, I can't wait. So, okay, so talk to me about the musical stuff, because the songs sound great. When you go into it, do you look back to Letting Loose and Rock Ain't Dead and say, okay, we got to give the fans that? Or do you say, hey, listen, it's 2020. It's 2019.
Yeah.
Let's just give them what we would sound like today. Do you worry about modern day versus classic era sounding for making these?
I think it comes into it. I think it was a bit of both, really. I think it was, we don't want it to be so far left of what Heavy Pettin used to be. You know what I mean? So, and that's kind of difficult, because it's like, Gordon has always been predominantly the main songwriter, and how the songs used to be written back in the day was like Gordon we'd all show up, Gordon would come up and go, okay, I've got this new tune, and he'd come up and put with the music. The music would be like 80-90% finished, whatever, and then he'd come up and go, hey, I've got this title of a song, or else he'll go, listen to this chorus, what do you think? And then he would give it to me, and I'd finish everything off lyrically and melody-wise. And that's the way we always did it with the albums. And then when we went in with this batch of songs, we did it the exact same way. And it was cool, but everybody's coming from a different point of view now from the 25. I mean, it's been 25 odd years. So Gordon has progressed obviously as a guitar player and a songwriter, and I've become a songwriter in my own right. I mean, I signed 2 different record labels with 2 different bands. Once Heavy Pettin was finished, and I co-wrote songs with the guitar players in those bands and stuff. So we all get better at our craft. So we knew, but because there's a time difference now from when then and now, it was like we'd all kind of matured a lot more, and so it was exciting to go in and see where everybody's head was and what we all thought was going to be good. And but also keeping in mind the fact that hey, we always have to keep a nod to the Letting Loose and the Rock Ain't Dead stuff, which is Heavy Pettin. And one of the compliments we've had, I guess, since the EP's come out, is it still sounds like Heavy Pettin. You know, it just sounds like a modern day Heavy Pettin. It sounds great. The songs sound great. Everything sonically, it sounds great, and it just sounds like Heavy Pettin. So I think that's been a great compliment for us to keep it like the old days, but also keep it fresh and modern, you know. And then obviously we've added Dave, the new guitar player, who's a singer-songwriter in his own right, and we picked one of his best songs for one of the tracks, and that totally fits into Heavy Pettin, which is amazing. So we're actually excited about it, and all the new stuff is going to be on the album. So
it sounds great. So there is a new album. You've done those tours. Is this because in 2017, like you just said, it was sort of seen as a one-off, and now here we are 3 years later, and it's still going on. What are the plans for the band? Is this sort of let's take it as far as it goes, or is there like a 5-year plan? Is there like, all right, let's just do this for another couple of years, and then let's just go back to what we were doing? How do you see the band moving forward?
Oh, no, there's definitely a plan, yeah. I mean, once we all got together, we decided straight off the bat we weren't doing anything unless there was a plan, unless we had some kind of plan of what we were doing. And the whole plan has been, so now you get the EP. So we're concentrated on the UK coming back with just the EP, which is going to get major promotion. We're going to so far we're going to concentrate in Europe, the mainland of Europe for 220. We'll take care of that, and we'll be releasing the album. So we'll promote that, go tour with that. Also, just trying to hook up with some of our old friends and see if we can get on some of their tours. Contact. We want to get bigger. Every time that we come out and do something, we want it to be bigger than what it was the last time. And so the next thing for us is opening up for some of the bigger acts, and then going out and doing more of our own shows, which will be obviously around the world. Go back to Japan. Love to go back to Australia, and then eventually tour America and Canada and stuff. So there is like you said, a 5-year kind of plan that this is what we want to do, and we're going to do whatever it takes to get there. So,
well, I'm looking forward to it.
It's not just one of these things that, I mean, it's great that we're doing what we're doing, and we're all excited about it, but we want more, and we want to keep it going, and we're going to keep on working back to that. And if that happens, then that'll be fantastic. And if it doesn't happen, then we'll reevaluate, later on down the line. But definitely for the next, like you said, 5 years or whatever, then all we're concerning ourselves about is touring, and then just touring around the world and writing new songs, releasing this album when it comes out, and then doing another one, and just keeping on going until we decide it's time to not keep on going.
Well, I think you should keep going, and I think your 1985 album Rock Ain't Dead is exactly the motto you should go with. Rock ain't dead. Let's keep this thing going. You did mention that you want to get on tours with some of the bigger acts. Back in the day, you were compared to a lot of the bigger acts. Everybody said they're the next Def Leppard, they're the next Bon Jovi, they're the next whatever, Cinderella, Poison, whatever the bands were. And of course, it came to an abrupt end. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that. What were some of the challenges you faced? Because when you talk to some of the bands that haven't had the international success, they always say to me, whether it's Thunder or Gothard, they go, you know what? Our management and record company just couldn't figure out the U.S. We couldn't figure it out. Was that part of the problem that Heavy Pettin just couldn't figure out the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, actually, we were way ahead of the curve on those other bands that you just mentioned as far as America was concerned. So we had the support of the American side at the beginning. How it kind of, I guess we were just unlucky, as for lack of a better term, because when we hit at the right time, then all of a sudden Bon Jovi came out, and they were the same record label as us, and so were Def Leppard. And obviously Def Leppard were in a totally different stratosphere. They were already huge by the time that we got to America. And so it was, record labels that people have their pet projects, and we had people that supported us compared to other acts. And then there was people that supported John's band more so than us. And so it came to a point when we were with Polygram that with the Americans that a lot of the stuff that we were expecting to happen started going Bon Jovi's way, and that kind of thing, you know, because there's only so many pieces of the pie when you're in a record label, and I'm not saying that. I mean, it was well deserved because I mean I'm friends with John, and you know I've told him this for years that I still think they're one of the best bands, and they wrote great songs, and so they deserved what they got. But it just so happened that, you know, they got a whole, like, picking producers. Look, we were always, okay, we want this producer, but then John's band would come in and John's band would get it. You know, just kind of stuff like that. And so we were kind of pissed off at the record label, and we were pissed off at the British side of it because the British side wouldn't do anything really to help because they did not know what to do with us. You know, as far as America was concerned, they were just relying on their sister company, Polygram, to take care of it. But it was a record label and management. That was it. I mean, that's a good excuse. It's a better excuse than nothing. But
it's a great. Do you think it would have made a difference had the record company not prioritized Bon Jovi? Do you think that you would have stuck it together, or were the
definitely, yeah. I mean, it wasn't just John's band. It wasn't just Bon Jovi and stuff. But there was. Yeah, there was other things, you know, but yeah, if they'd have prioritized it right and put as much effort into it at the beginning, then it would have worked out a lot better, because it always felt that we were just always, you know, scratching and clawing for everything there. And, you know, the British label was fighting with the American label all the time, and it just seemed that we were always in the middle. You know, and then we were changing managers, and you know, so that was always a pain in the butt, and so it was a hard time. I mean, on the outside, it looked awesome because we were getting everything. We're doing all the tours and we're doing albums and doing whatever, but it just needed that one little push to really make it really happen. And for whatever reason, that was just never really coming. I mean, we were very successful, but we just needed that extra push to take it to a totally different level, and it was just never forthcoming, which was kind of sad. So, especially on the third album, you know, when the third album came out, it was that really pissed everybody off, you know, because the record label just really did not know what to do with his band. I mean, we were and we were getting tons of money. I mean, we were spending fortunes. I mean, we were in some of the top studios around the world recording that. We were recording that album for like 7-8 months, you know? And then when it was done, you know, it was like they didn't know what to do, and it wasn't the way we wanted to go. So you were always butting heads with the A&R department. You know, we wanted to be stronger, I mean, heavier, and they wanted to be, well, let's get this commercial and da-da-da-da-da. So you were constantly fighting. And then the producers that we wanted to work with, they had us working with, especially on the third album, we worked with two great guys, but their big thing was Mike and the Mechanics and a bunch of other bands like that. And we were, you know, even though they're great producers, that's not us. That's not what we wanted to do. You know, we wanted to be more heavier, like I said, and even so the production sounded like that. We didn't want to sound like a pop band, but that's the way they were leaning, and they were in charge, and they just made life a misery for us if we didn't, you know, say yes to everything they said. And, you know, we'd butt heads, and it was just a bad scene in general by the time it got to the third album. You know, even to the point that we got some studio time away and nobody could find us. We all vanished, and we all went and recorded 2 songs that Gordon had written, and then said, okay, let's do these the way we want to do them, and we'll show them. And we did. One was called Break It Down. The other was called Hot Women. And we took them back to the record label, and we said, hey, this is how we want to sound. This is what we want to do. And we want to scratch all the stuff that we've been doing for the last 7 months, because this is the direction we want to go. And they were just, no, we're not doing that. Even though it sounded awesome, you know, and they, no, this is what you need to do. And so eventually after that, we did one more tour, I think after that. And then by 89, we just let everybody get tired of fighting with everybody in the record label and management. We just called it a day. So,
which is unfortunate, but at least you're back now. You did mention producers, so of course we have to ask the question that you've been asked for 30 some years. But you did of course do Letting Loose with Brian May. He came in as a co-producer. How do you get the guy from Queen, who is no slouch, to come work with you? Was there just that much excitement with the band that people were coming to you? Or was
Oh,
this a beg and plead and, oh, come on, help us, dear God, you know?
yeah, no, definitely. Brian got to hear these rough demos through a publishing company, which was Warner Brothers. And he loved them. When he heard the first demos, he was so excited. And he went and spoke to Mac, who was the Queen producer or co-producer in Germany, and said, hey, I want to produce these guys and I want you to come with me. And so Mac heard the demos and he was all about it as well. So actually, this is kind of funny, but we were getting ready to go on tour. Or we're going to go do some shows. That wasn't a big tour. We're just going to do a handful of shows. So we're in a rehearsal studio. And obviously we hadn't had an album out, whatever. So we'd get put on this bill to open up for this band for a couple of shows, and we were all excited about it. So we were sitting in this rehearsal studio, and it was on this big soundstage thing, and we're doing our thing. And it was one of those deals that when we were on stage, everything else is pitch black, but you could see a door opening at the back of the wee hall, and there was a light there, so people would be coming in and out. So I'm singing away, and I'm seeing people coming in and out. So we finished the rehearsal, and the house lights go on, and we're kind of standing there, and I'm looking out. And as I'm standing there looking, I'm going, shit, that looks like Brian May. And so I nudge up to Gordon, and I'm like, is that Brian May? And so there's Brian May and John Deacon and Mac, the German, sitting there, and he's like, shit, it is Brian May. And so as we were all kind of looking, Brian comes walking up, and he goes, hey, hi, I'm Brian May. And we were all like, oh, no, we know who you are, And he said, I heard your demos. I love it. I want to produce your album. And we were absolutely floored, and we were like, wow, that is fantastic. So we were like, of course, yeah, we're in. And that's how it started. And then we went off to the Townhouse Studios, Studio 2 in London. And what was cool about that studio, that's where Phil Collins did his famous drum sound, because it had a big glass wall. So that was always cool. So when we get into that studio, we were there for about 2-3 months, and then went to Munich in Germany for about 6 weeks and did the vocals and mixed. And it was awesome. And with Brian, the funny thing, Mitch, is with Brian, is like everybody expected him to play on it. And even we did to an extent. We're thinking, okay, we need to get Brian to play guitar on this. And he would bring his guitar into the studio, the famous guitar, and just have it sitting there. And so every time we come in, we still see the guitar sitting there and go, oh, today's the day. He's going to play on the album. And that day would go by, and he eventually never played, but he did do backing vocals. But he never played the guitar, which kind of, which was annoying. So, but he was great. He was fantastic. He's a gentleman. He's a really neat guy, and we've all remained friends and stuff over all the years. So it's exciting for me to see Queen back out and playing, because I was always a huge fan as a kid. So
a great guitarist, one of the best of our time. Just in 1995, right? You put out Child, Saints and Sinners.
Oh yeah.
Talk to me about that. Was that like, okay, I'm no longer in Heavy Petting, and so I'm going to start this new band, and it's going to be the next 20 years of my life? Or was this like, hey, I've got these 10 songs, let's go record them, and merci, bonsoir, we'll move along? What was sort of the
it was Child started before that. That was when I left Heavy Pettin in '89. I'd moved to America by '88, and so I was getting back and forwards. And then when the band finally called it a day in '89, whatever, it was like, so I was living in America, so I just flew back to America, and realized that I had to do something. So I'd become really good friends with a guitar player called Earl Slick, and Slick and I put a band together called Dirty White Boy with Kenny Richards, the drummer from Autograph, and then Pete, who was the bass player from Cheap Trick at the time. And so Slick and I had written a bunch of songs, and so we ended up signing to MCA. and we're getting ready to go in and do the album, and everybody just come out of rehab, put it that way, and so except for me, and so I was still 24/7. Everybody got out of rehab, and so when it was time to go into the studio, I was still doing my thing and hanging out with all my friends and doing whatever. So eventually everything took its toll, and I get real sick for a while, and so they moved. They ended up getting another singer, and it was a mutual agreement. It was like, hey, I don't want to hold anybody back. So that went that way, and so I spent a lot of time in San Diego getting healthy again and everything else. And I was in New York, and I met this manager guy. Came up to me and said, hey, I've got this awesome guitar player. You need to meet him. He lives in Birmingham, Alabama. And I'm like, okay, sure. And so he flew me down to Birmingham, and I met Damon Johnson, who is the guitar player for, he's played with everybody, Damn Yankees, he's Thin Lizzy, Black Star Riders. He was a guitar player for them forever and ever. And so Damon and I hit it off, man. We were like brothers, and so we wrote a whole bunch of stuff. We signed a record deal with, was it Elektra? I think it was Elektra. I can't remember now. But we signed, Virgin. No, it was Virgin Records. So we signed with Virgin Records, and then proceeded to do an album for them. And that kept on dragging on and on and on and on, because they kept on trying to change how they wanted this to sound. And eventually, after 2 years, that kind of fizzled out. But I kept the thing going with Child, and Damon went away and did stuff with the Damn Yankees and some other people. And so I ended up putting another band together, keeping the name Child, and we recorded those songs in Nashville and released that. But it was just going to be one of those things that, hey, I've got all this stuff, let's just go in and we'll tour. And it was really just a one-off kind of thing.
So let me take a couple of things out of that, because I didn't know all these different connections. So Damon Johnson, of course, did some time with Thin Lizzy, Brother Kane. He's on that unreleased Damn Yankees album, the third one, the infamous third one. And a personal friend of mine. Damon is absolutely wonderful. Are you still in touch with Damon, or have you fallen out of touch with Damon?
I haven't spoke to Damon in, good God, it's got to be a few years. We were in touch. Not tell a lie. We spoke. One of our mutual friends there's a Scottish band called Gun, and the drummer is a little guy called Paul McManus, and they were out doing. They were opening up for Black Star Riders about 2 years ago, maybe, and so they were in Rome, and that was the last time Damon and I had spoken, because he's doing his thing, and then all of a sudden, obviously, I get wrapped up in the whole Heavy Pettin, the new Heavy Pettin stuff. But Damon and I've been friends. He was best man at my wedding.
Damon's the best. I in fact, last year I booked 3 shows in Canada for Damon. So if Heavy Pettin wants shows up here, we should talk. I'll help you get some shows up here.
Yes, we should, sir.
And now you quickly mentioned that he was the bass player at the time for Cheap Trick, but I didn't hear the name. Was that John Brandt, or was it Pete Comita, or who were you referring?
It was Pete Comita.
Okay, so it was Pete Comita. Okay, boy, yeah. There's a guy, if you still talk to, I'd love to interview, because that's a great story. The guy who came into Cheap Trick for a little bit. Do you still talk to Pete?
Yeah. No, I haven't spoken to Pete in a long time, and that all fizzled out. And we saw each other in L.A. for a long time after that, but then, it's like everything else. He was doing his own thing, and then we just kind of lost contact. And then I was in the South, so I moved to Los Angeles, and after Damon and I kind of hooked up, then I just lived in the South for a long time after that. I just loved the area, I loved the people. They just reminded me of Scotland, of the Scottish people. So I just lived in Alabama for a long time and did a whole bunch of music there.
It's funny, because when I think of Scotland, I think, wow, they're just like people in Alabama.
But they're just so friendly. You know what I mean?
No, I know. Like, down home, they're down home friendly. Yeah, my wife is Scottish, and her mother lives out in Scotland, so I understand that. But on that, I got to say thank you. It's been absolutely great. We've done just a little over 30 minutes, and Heavy Pettin 4Play, folks, is out now. Do check it out, and where was it here? Oh, I got rid of my note. But years ago, the albums were re-released recently. So go pick up the new versions of the albums because they've been updated and sound great. There you go. Merci, monsieur. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mitch. I appreciate it. And seriously, if you can help us get some shows in Canada, that would be fantastic.
I absolutely can. So let me know when, where, how, and I will talk to my local promoters and let them know. It's usually easier, of course, if you're doing like an East Coast run to pop up here rather than get flown out from anywhere because, listen, there are costs.
Yeah.
We'll
work on that. Yeah, we'll definitely work on that.
But if you're doing, if you're doing the Monsters of Rock cruise and then you work your way up the East Coast, I can easily add Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto like that, and get you up here. I'm sure fans would love it because you are one of these bands that was right there in the pantheon with Leopard and Jovi and all those bands. And then it took a left turn, but the music's still there, and the music's still great. And the fans that bought Rock Ain't Dead, the fans that bought Heavy Pettin or Letting Loose, they'd want to come out. They'd want to see this. So let's make it happen.
Oh, that sounds awesome, mate. So if you don't mind, I'll keep in touch with you and let you know what's going on. And as soon as we get this album finished, I'll get it out to you.
Thank you, sir. And I've got the Heavy Pettin right in front of me. I got my CD here. It sounds great, looks great. And as we say in Montreal, merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.
Okay, man. Take it live. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye now.
This has been Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. For more exclusive content and interviews, subscribe on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and many more. Follow Mitch on all the socials, especially Twitter, @Mitch Lafon, and on Instagram, @Mitch_Lafon. Get your Mitch merch now at loudtracks.com/Mitch.